advocates for children in foster care. We recruit volunteers from the community, and they don't have to have any special kind of training. They just have to be people that want to make a difference with the time that they have.
It's very important for them to have a person that's going to, guide them through the foster care system and be on their side, because the CASA worker is different than a staff at a group home or a social worker. You build relationships with almost every adult, but with the CASA worker, it's a special relationship because they're on your side regardless.
Many of these children who come out of homes that are so stressed, whether it's through poverty, drug addiction, abuse, nobody tells them they're good. Nobody tells them that they can do whatever they want. All they need to do is work and remember their family values. And they don't get that. And that's one of the things that I think that we can do is just help them build and maintain that sense of self-esteem.
These kids are special. They have a lot of emotional problems. They've had terrible childhoods. When I went into the CASA office to read the court cases, I left there crying. I just couldn't believe what these kids have gone through. And what's so important about the CASA organization is the training they give you. The training has helped me invaluably with my foster kid.
The biggest thing is just the positive male model. They've had too much modeling from, unfortunately, bad family situations. There's a lot of criminal behavior, there's a lot of abuse, and this is what they come to expect. And we've seen this acting out with certain kids where they are striking out in really negative behaviors. And so for them to see that we can be with them and not have an adversarial relationship with them is important.
Really, we become the voice of the child in court. We can be the voice of the child in the school, we can be the voice of the child with the social worker, we can be the voice of the child with the therapist, we can be the voice of the child, period.
Judges value the CASA's input because the CASA is a volunteer. They have no agenda other than just wanting to make sure that the kids are doing well and caring about them as a person, as an individual.
What's so wonderful about being a CASA, you advocate for them in court. And my CASA kid has a little brother, 9 years old, and she hadn't seen him for a long time. And she was not allowed to see him. So I advocated for her in court and asked the judge if I personally could take her to see him. And the judge said yes, and it was terrific. It took about 3 hours to go see him. He's also in a group home. And when we went down there to see him, when they first saw each other, they just ran to each other and held each other. For an hour, they just cried and held each other. I
know one CASA kid, I was advocating a lot for him to get in a sports program, and it took him a few placements before he finally was in a situation where they would put up with the practices and that, and I tried to facilitate there too, taking him to practices, taking him to games, and attending the games. I remember the first game that I went to, he was in the outfield, right field, loser time, and he made a catch. He comes back in and he's just looking over his shoulder at me, and I'm sitting there smiling, giving the heads up, and this kid was beaming. And there was no one else there. And so that's kind of a special time. Gave me goosebumps.
I had picked up my CASA girl to take her out to dinner. And we went to this little Italian restaurant. And she was frustrated by something that was going on. And she's very verbal. And so she never stopped talking. And I just sat there and said, uh-huh, uh-huh, oh yes, uh-huh, uh-huh. And after about what seemed to be about 20 minutes of this, she said, one of the reasons I really like you is you're such a good talker. You talk to me and you give me back. I haven't said a word, I just listened. And so that was kind of a little bit of an object lesson to me. Ask a few questions and listen a whole lot more.
When I first met my CASA child, he was actually very angry. He would talk about being a loser. Any game we played, it was constantly, if I was winning, he was, oh, I'm no good, I'm no good. And I had to tell him constantly that this was not a game to see who won. It was for fun. And he was not a loser. And every time he told me he was a loser, he had to give me 5 different things positive about himself. And I think after seeing him for 1 year and 7 months, I know when he smiles, when he's happy, I know that I made a difference in his life. And I know that he knows I care about him and I care about his future. The other day we went bowling and I was winning first, and then he started winning, but he told me, well, we're here to have fun, right? We're not here to see who wins.
Something about this program resonated with me, and I think that's what's going to happen with most people. You're going to know that this is for you, and when you do know that it's for you, I would just urge you to answer that call because it's intended for you to do it. There are certain things that I believe we have strengths and weaknesses in, and if we feel like we can make a difference in a child's life, we need to do that.
I would encourage other adults to become CASA workers just because youth in the foster care system, they're very hurt and it's very difficult for them to trust somebody. To have that one person that's going to stick with them, that'll really make a difference in their life. And they'll grow up and they'll always remember, you know, my CASA worker was always there.
The good that you feel and the satisfaction you feel of making a difference. Though I have to say it comes with a bit of grief too, and it hurts when you see kids that are really hurting and falling out of the system, falling through the cracks. But it's just the good that comes out of it more than makes up for the poor, and it's just real gratifying.
It doesn't get old. The good feelings that you're doing something that matters don't go away.